What I would say to a child before they see their first opera, feel the magic. Feel the magic. What sparked the idea of Opera Iowa was we were looking for a way to offer singers an opportunity to have employment for a period of time, because that was rather unusual for young singers. But we also wanted to introduce education, music education in the schools in Iowa. I thought, I don't want to take the kids out of a class where they're learning something and just entertain them for a while with a show. And that's how the workshop component of Opera Iowa came to be. When they first went out on the tour, one of the things the teacher told one of the cast members early on, we haven't had an arts education program in this school for over a decade. That's what the landscape looked like in Iowa at that time.
Opera Iowa is one of the central ways in which we fulfill our mission to engage audiences in creative spaces and in new ways, to provide introduction to the performing arts and to provide opportunities for students and families, adults in urban and rural settings across our state that introduce them to the live performing arts, that get them excited about what it is that they're seeing, and hopefully entice them to attend future performances.
So we believe it's every child's civil right to have a high-quality education and access to high-quality programming. One of those pieces is access to the arts, and by seeing live theater really in action, especially when we can bring that live theater into one of our own school buildings, students can see themselves in those roles. They can see themselves as performers, as artists in and of their own right.
I do think the Opera Iowa experience is unique in the fact that it's an even playing ground for my students, because most of them have no experience because they've had no exposure to opera. And so in that capacity, I think it's really great to be able to encourage kids to, yes, raise their hand and to give their ideas and to give their opinions or to ask those questions.
And I think it's that component, that educational component, along with the magic of the performance, that has given the program, the Opera Iowa program, longevity and has led to so many repeat bookings over the years, so many long-term relationships with schools and presenters, some of them dating back to the very earliest years in the 1980s that we continue to go to every year.
When performing for K through 12 audiences, it's really, really fun because you get to sort of see their faces and their reactions to hearing opera singing for the first time. And if that's something they've never experienced live before, it's a really, often, especially the younger kids, have a really big reaction.
And down the hall comes these two kids, this young man, this young girl, and they walked up to the singers and the boy said, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen," and turned around and left. And I looked at the troupe and I said, this is it. This is why we do this. If there's one kid in the audience that this touched them, then we've done our job.
But it's also in the stories that come to us sometimes years later after an Opera Iowa performance. It's sometimes the CEO of a corporation that's looking at a grant who gives us that grant because they remember Opera Iowa being in their school. It's the letter from the mother whose son has been quiet and not his usual self over the last several school years as he's trying to find his way, who spent his day putting up the set in Opera Iowa, working with our technical director at the elementary school, who came home and couldn't stop talking about the experience of working on a theater from a technical standpoint, and found a new passion in life. So we're not out there to make musicians out of everybody, though we like it when we do. But we are certainly out there creating advocates for the performing arts, for opera, and for Des Moines Metro Opera.
One of the things I want to say about this program is that it would not be what it is without the stability of the funding that we've received all these many years. Individuals, a lot of corporations got behind the educational component of it, and foundations too love that part of it. And their ability to listen to the vision of what we had for Opera Iowa and to say, yes, we want to get on board with that, and to be so generous in their funding for all these years. I just want to say thank you. Feel the magic. Feel the magic.